Hi guys, in this video we're going to have a look at making a simple model of a truck. Now as normal I'm going to start with the default cube, but this time I don't need to delete the cube, I'm actually going to use it. So first of all I'm going to change to edit mode so that I can edit the cube, and then I'm going to choose face select, which is the third of the selection options up the top, and then I'll click on the top of the cube and press E, lift up the top of the cube, maybe up to about there, and then I'm going to press S, and because I only want to squeeze it in the X direction, I'll press X, and then I can move it in like this. Okay, now I'm going to click on the bottom of the cube. I'm going to press S and then X again and move it out a little bit like this, and then I'll press E and pull it down a bit more, and then E again and pull it down a little bit more. Now this is going to be the cab of the truck. Now I want the back of this cab to be flat, so what I'll do is I'll click on all of the faces along the back. Now I can do that by holding down Shift as I select faces to get all of them. Then I'll press S and X and 0, and that makes the back of the truck cab flat like that. Okay, now at the moment that cab is very thin, so I'm going to press G and X to move it back a little bit until it's wide enough to look more like the cab of a truck. And then in the same way I'm going to click on these faces at the side, hold down Shift, select them all, and then press G and Y and move them out until it's wide enough to be a truck cab. So maybe somewhere like that, maybe a bit more even. Okay. Now, just to get the idea of where the back of the truck should go, I'm going to click on this and press E and just pull that out. So the truck's going to look something like this, and this will be the cab where the driver sits. Okay, now we've got the basic idea of the truck, and the next step is we're going to create windows for the cab. So I'm going to select this face and then hold down Shift and select the other two faces. Now to make a window shape I'm going to press I, and then as I move the mouse it's going to create a smaller face inside the main face. So you can see that here, that we've got this sort of smaller area. We've got the frame of the window around the edges, and then this part is going to be glass. Now I'm going to press S and just shrink it in slightly to give it a bit more shape. And now I think we're ready to give this a glass material. So I'll go over to the right hand side and scroll down until I get to this icon, which is for material. So this is the ball with a checker pattern on it. Now the first material here is the material for the rest of the cab. So we want to add a new material. I'll just click the plus icon and click new, and then I'm going to type the name here, which will be glass. Okay, now at the moment I'm not actually going to make the glass transparent. I'm just going to give it a color so that I can recognize it, and then if I want to see that, I need to switch to the fourth of the display settings. So up in the top right you've got this viewport shading setting. Click on the fourth option along. Now I haven't actually set the glass material here, so I need to select these again. Just hold down Shift and click, and then choose glass, and then click the sign. Okay, so that's where the glass of the cab is going to be. Okay, now the next thing is I want to have some wheels, so I'm going to go underneath the cab, and then just like before I'll select the two bottom panels. I actually want to make those a little bit higher, so I'll press G and Z and then move them down a bit more. I think probably about there is right. Okay. Now I can come out of edit mode and go back to object mode. What I want to do is to cut a circular hole so that the wheels can go into that hole. So to cut a hole, I'm going to add a cylinder. Now, this cylinder, I need to rotate it by 90 degrees. So I can do that by pressing R and then X and then 90. That just rotates the cylinder 90 degrees. Now I can press S and just expand the cylinder out. Now I only want to make it longer, so I'll press Y to keep it just stretching in the Y axis. Okay, now I'm going to move the cylinder down to where I want the wheels to go, which I think is about here. Okay, now what I want to do is to cut a section out of the truck using this cylinder. So I'll click on the main truck, and then I click on the spanner icon, and choose the modifier option Boolean. Now, when I choose that option, I get this selection panel, and I'll click on the eyedropper tool at the edge, and then click on the cylinder that I want to cut out of my truck. Now, as soon as I click on it, you can see that now that cylinder is cutting a hole in the edge of the truck. And if I'm happy with where that hole is, I just go up here and choose Apply. Now, you can delete the cylinder now if you don't want it, but I'm going to need to put some more wheels on my truck, so I'm going to press G and then move over a little bit, and then I'll cut some more holes over here. So again, I'm going to choose the truck and then choose Boolean and select the cylinder and then choose Apply to cut the hole. Okay, and I probably want one more set of wheels, so let's do one more here. Or is that too many? It kind of looks like too many. I probably haven't left enough space on my truck. Okay, for now I'm just going to do 2 sets of wheels. So I'll delete that cylinder now that I don't need it. Okay, now let's add in some lights. So I'm going to go to Add, Mesh, and choose a sphere. Here we go. Now, I always like to position things using 2D view. So I just clicked on X there to go to a 2D view of where my truck is. And then if I click on Y, and then I can position these lights exactly where I want them to be. Now I'm going to use S to scale them down a little bit. Position them in the right place. And then once I've got the light in the right place, let's add a material to it. So this material is going to be the light material. So I'll click here and call it headlight. And we'll set that material in a little bit, but let's just assign it to the surface. So I think that's already assigned actually. Let's just change the color. There we go. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to click that. Now I'm going to press Shift and D to make a copy and just put the copy over here so that we've got 2 lights. Okay. Now I think I'm ready to add in some wheels. So I'll go to Add. Now this time I'm going to choose a cylinder. Now I'll maybe move the cylinder up here and I'll press Rotate. R, X, 90 to rotate it around to the direction that I want. Then I'll press S, Y and just squeeze it in until it's about the right size. Okay, now I want this wheel to look wheel-like, so that means it needs to have a bit of a tire. So I'm going to go over to the Material tab again and click New. And then I'm going to call this first material Tire. And then I'll add a second material and I'll call this the Hubcap. So now the tire material is going to be black, so I'll just choose the base color of black down here, or maybe very dark grey. And then the hubcap is going to be white. Now what I'll do is I'll switch to edit mode, and then just select that tire on the end. Now I'm going to press E, move it out a tiny little bit. Probably need to be a bit closer so that I can see what I'm doing. That's it. Then press S to shrink it in a little bit. Then I'm going to press E, move it out a tiny little bit, press S, shrink it in a little bit, press E. Now actually I want to move it in a little bit here, then press S to take it in a bit, E to reduce the size a little bit, and then S to take it in a little bit. Okay, now you can see how this is starting to look more like a wheel. And then to make the hubcap a different color, I'm going to select the hubcap material and click Assign. Okay, so now we've got something that looks at least a little bit more wheel-like than just using a cylinder. So I'm going to grab that and move it down. Again, this is easier to do in 2D mode, so I'm going to click on Y, and then I can position it more easily into the hole that I've got for it. Now, if it doesn't fit exactly, I can just shrink the wheel until it fits exactly into the hole that I want to use. And then again, I'm using 2D mode to just position it in the right place on the side. There we go. I think that looks okay now. So now I'll press Shift and D to make a copy. I'll just move that over to the other hole that I've created for the wheel. Now I want to make a copy on the other side. So what I'll do is I'll copy both of them and move them over to the other side. So pressing Shift and D and moving them over like that. Now, of course, I want them to face the other way. So what I'll do is I'll press R, and then I'm going to press X, and then 180 should flip them around like that. Okay, so now I've got the wheels on my truck. I could actually do something similar with the lights to make them look a little bit more realistic. I'll maybe have a look at that in a second, but let's now add some detail inside the truck. So I'm going to select the truck again, and I'm going to just change the material to a different color. Let's make this a blue truck. So if I pick a sort of blue color like that, and now I want to make this glass see-through. So to create a see-through effect, you need to select the material that you've chosen. Now, I've already assigned glass to this material, so actually I didn't need to do that step. But anyway, I've selected that now. Now go down to all of these material properties, and the one that you need to increase to make it transparent is called transmission. So just go to transmission, which is probably set to 0, and increase it all the way up to 1. Now, that will create a glass effect, but you can't see it immediately, and that's because the transparency rendering is not turned on at the moment. So the first thing you need to do is scroll down a bit further and find this box that says Screen Space Refraction. Click that. Now we also need to turn on refraction for the whole scene. So to do that, you need to go up to the thing that looks like a digital camera. It says Render Properties. Click on that, and then just look down the list, and you are going to see where it says Screen Space Reflections. Open up that box, tick Screen Space Reflections, and also tick Refraction. Now that will actually enable the glass effects. So if we go back to look at this now, you can probably see that we actually do have the ability to look through the glass and see some stuff behind. Now, at the moment, the glass is actually very refractive, so that means that the light is bending quite a lot as it passes through the glass. We probably want to decrease the amount of refraction, and you can do that by just going down to this IOR option, and I will put in something quite close to 1, so maybe something like 1.02. Okay, now we've got fairly realistic looking glass. It's kind of tinted, so I might want to change the color a little bit. Maybe change it back to more or less white color. Okay, there we go. I think that's not too bad. I might actually make it a little bit more grey than that. There we go. Okay. Now, at the moment, we're looking through the glass of the truck, and of course, we can't see anything inside. So let's add a chair inside the truck. So this is where we just create another model. So I'm going to stick to very simple models here. I'm just going to add a cube. And then I'll press S and X to squash it in a little bit, like this. I'm going to give it a red color. And then if I switch to edit mode, and then I'm pretty sure you guys know how to do this now, I'm just going to add a seat onto this chair. And I think that's already good enough for the chair inside this truck. So I'm going to move that into position now. And then maybe create a second one using Shift and D to make a copy. There we go. Now we've got two chairs inside the truck. Now, obviously, this could be modeled with much more detail, so I'm just using a very rough approximation. I kind of feel, looking at it now, that the back of the truck should be a bit bigger. So I'm going to go back into edit mode and then select the back of the truck. Oh, I chose edit mode and I wasn't selecting the truck. So select the truck first and then go to edit mode. Okay. Now I'm just going to select those back faces of the truck and press G and X to move them back a little bit more to make the back of the truck a bit chunkier, because I think that looks more realistic now. Okay, now these lights definitely need to be improved, but I think I'm going to leave it there because this project, I think you guys already know how to do a lot of this stuff. So it's really just practicing, and the more you work on it, the better your truck is going to look. So please use your own ideas and develop this to create a really convincing looking model. Okay, thanks very much, guys. That's the end of the video.